What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you the recording commentary from the live locals final. So on the left we have Kyron playing Yubel, and on the right we have myself playing Raidraptors. So Kyron has activated and resolved Pot of Prosperity, taking Samsara D Lotus, which is met by a Droll and Lockbird. This is actually quite good against the Yubel strategy because it means after they've taken Samsara Lotus, their route of play would be to go from Samsara into Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel gets Nightmare Pain, and then Nightmare Pain destroys Spirit of Yubel, giving you original Yubel and searching a card. So it really does kind of stop their Super Poly contact. And at that point, he's pretty much just passed from this point. So we start off by normal summoning Raider's Wing, and then we just need to get an extended to the ball, which we have with the Strangle Lania. So we're just going very basic on this point. We are technically playing around everything apart from Ash. We will be able to play around the Biru as well, because as soon as we get to the 5th spot summon, they can bring it down. It looks like the hand for Yubel was Fenrir, Shavara, Lotus, and something else. So obviously at this point in time, I don't know what is in that hand. So it is pretty much just playing through as carefully as possible to be able to conduct what I'm hoping to be as an OTK. So Arsenal Falcon summons out Noir Lanius, obviously not being hit by an Ash Blossom. We can see we've got a Singing Lanius in the hand, so that's quite good if Arsenal does get ashed, because then you can still have the extender to make your plays. Sending Mimicry, banishing Mimicry, and then just deciding what to search out. So we go for Heal Eagle as a form of crackback, should I need to. So we're going to special summon that down. Always tend to use Heal Eagle as the link fodder because it can't manipulate its level. We're going to go for Arsenal Falcon, and we're going to go for White Strix, and he has the Ghost Spell, and then I've got the Call by the Grave. So a nice little bit of additional protection there, as Ghost Spell was the only thing that would have stopped that Arsenal Falcon, annoyingly. So we get to go into Ultimate Falcon. He's questioning if I've got game on board. I probably do, depending on what else is in the hand for interruption. So we're going to special summon down the Fuzzy Lanius. I suppose at this point we're pretty much just overextending, but what I'm trying to ultimately achieve is to get into the Rise and Rebellion Falcon. So we're going to resolve the 4 Strix, search this out, Bloom Vulture, and then Y Strix to set the rank up spell, and obviously that can be activated this turn. Now all we need to do is, we pretty much have enough to get to our rank 13, so we're going to activate the quick play. We're just going to go straight into our rank 13, and that will ultimately be game, because again, Rise and Rebellion is going to be fat stacked, and then Ultimate Falcon is going to punch in for the remainder of the damage. So we're going to scoop that up, and we're going to go into game 2. So Kyron again is going to choose to go first with Yubel. It looks like they've opened up Fenrir, Samsara D Lotus, and something else. Couldn't quite see exactly what else they had. I think there was the Triple Tactics Talents. So we've got an Imperm in the Raidraptor hand, and ultimately, at this point you'd probably get hit with a Droll if I had one. Sadly I didn't. Going to go for the Samsara D Lotus, and at this point we are going to talents that, because now I know they've conducted their normal summon. In hindsight, I probably could have held it back for the Fenrir, and you'll see how I try it. Like I kind of have to go that little bit further to play around the Fenrir. But ultimately, if I did allow Samsara D Lotus to resolve, I probably would have been in a bit more trouble. And I think I had a Veiler in the hand, so knowing that my opponent now has talents, it's probably good that I held that Veiler back a little bit now. So hindsight being 2020. I think the rest of my hand is quite a lot of hand traps, and it's now just trying to play around Fenrir, because as soon as I activate a monster effect, if he wants to kind of shut me off from getting to my XYZ plays, as long as he hits the right extenders, I'm in a bit of trouble. So we're going to start off with Bloom Vulture. Straight away, this allows me to maintain my normal summon, so that if they do decide to get rid of one of them, it's not the end of the world. So we're going to go with Fuzzy Lanius, and then of course we also open up some more, because we pretty much opened up all extenders at this point. But by getting that additional body on the board, what it's given me is it now puts my opponent in a position of, if they choose to use Fenrir, then I still have the ability to link or anything else. Also, the reason I go for 4 Strix is because the idea behind this is I'm trying to get to my Raider's Wing. And as soon as I get to my Raider's Wing, as long as that stays on the board, it's either going to bait out the Fenrir to get rid of it, which would be if I use its effect. I believe I normal summon it so that it can't be Fenrir'd. And then it means that the XYZ that I'm building off of the back of is going to be protected from targeting effects. Again, the only downside of this particular route of play is that I don't protect from a Nibiru. So it is risk and reward. Like, you're protecting from what I would consider as being more common cards. Obviously, Imperm is non-existent because he hasn't set any cards, but you still need to be wary of Veilers if that deck plays it. Now, obviously, I can't guarantee that they couldn't. And then you also need to play around Ash, which is why you're trying to, or why I'm personally trying to extend that little bit further. So we're going to Raiders Knight. I'm also now protected from Fenrir, so that's one thing that I am a bit curious about. We're going to use Fenrir's effect, and obviously I've said you can't target the Brave Strix. We're going to use Brave Strix effect, so they're forced to pretty much target the 4 Strix. Brave Strix to get the rank up, activate the rank up, and then I believe this is probably the best route of play that they had, is like they activated Nibiru here, which is actually massively damaging because I'm 99% sure, because I have to use the Brave Strix as the XYZ material, because the chain resolves backwards and it's no longer on the board to be used as XYZ material. I believe we kind of rule it correctly that technically all I get is a Nibiru token. Now, the token's very strong, and I suppose I probably could have tried to bait out the Fenrir by using the effect of the Raider's Wing, and then it would have allowed me to maintain my normal summon as well, which would have ultimately left me with a fuzzy in the hand at this exact moment in time. But sadly not. So I think I've got fuzzy, Veiler, and one other card. So we pretty much just kind of have to think about it and then pass here. So he knows fuzzy, which is why I reveal it to them again. I'm just saying, yeah, you know, I've got fuzzy. I suppose on the bright side as well, the Nibiru also shuts them out for putting the second Fenrir on the board. But they do open up a second Samsara D Lotus, so they're going to be able to use the effect on that one. I'm just debating at what point do we stop it. And this is obviously not knowing that Talents is in there. So I let the Samsara resolve, and I'm like, okay, cool. Well, what I'll do is I'll Veiler the Spirit of Yubel, might be a little bit more damaging. I believe it's a Veiler that I've got. Curious as to why I hold that back. Is it a Veiler or a DD Crow? It looks like I opened up a second Samorg. So obviously I'm not particularly playing around Talents too much at this exact moment in time. Though, again, it would be really damaging if I do run into Talents and they steal my token and just smack me in the face, because the token is something like 60, I think it's like 50 or 60 something in itself. So straight away that plus Nibiru would ultimately be game. So we've got the Eternal Favourite coming. That's being added off the back of that. We still got the ability to resolve the Yubel. I'm trying to remember what I... Oh, it's Ghost Spell that I was holding on to. Oh, okay, it wasn't Veiler, then it was Ghost Spell. And this actually proves to be quite damaging for me, because, I mean, either way, if Spirit of Yubel resolves, I still run into a bit of danger. Because there's Talents, it's now like, do they draw or steal? Now, I believe they probably should have stolen, because then that would have been game. Like, there'd be no reason to kind of be drawing to. But, you know, it's still kind of... I mean, there's a D Shifter in hand. Woof. Pretty much dead. That we know is the Eternal Favourite. Nibiru's not strong enough to get rid of the token, which is why I feel that stealing would have probably been better. So I'm just trying to remember exactly what the stats was. I mean, it was Samsara D Lotus, which was 0. Maybe it wasn't as strong as I think it was, and maybe if stealing it wouldn't push the game. It looks like we draw a Strangle Lanius for turn, I believe. So what are we doing here? I'm going to be activating Eternal Favourite, maybe? I mean, we've got Nightmare Pain, so I do have to be careful. I completely forgot that the Eternal Favourite brings back a Yubel monster, not just Yubel, so I wasn't really worried about it too much. I was like, okay, well, do I need to worry about it? Trying to see what else is in my hand. There's definitely the Samorg, there's definitely a Fuzzy, and there's definitely what looks like a Strangle Lanius, so you want to try and maintain your normal summon. I also have the Search off of the back of the rank up, because it lets you banish itself and one other to search, which is really nice. It just depends on if that search can be highly effective or not for the strategy going forward. So we're going to normal summon the Strangle Lanius. Annoying that you have to use up your normal summon and then get the additional normal off the back of the Samorg. This will ultimately end up allowing us to make a rank play. Again, it's just... I don't know really. I think I was probably worried about the Eternal Favourite Contact Fuse on my board, but I don't know why, because there was no Yubel in play. But But even then, when Eternal Favourite brings back Spirit of Yubel, if I go to the battle phase, I'm then going to be forced to attack said Yubel, which protects the Nibiru, and then I'm ultimately going to end up doing massive damage to myself. I suppose this is one downside to the Raidraptor strategy, is I probably, looking back on this, I probably should have tried to go for something like Satellite Cannon, to destroy all the back row. That probably would have been more damaging for my opponent than anything, because as soon as I get rid of the back row, I don't need to, like, I can still attack the Yubels and everything. Without Nightmare Pain, I don't take the damage, so that would have been ideal. Yeah, I'm trying to think, do I have a Raider's Wing in the graveyard? I'm trying to remember if I had one from turn 1. Because we've already used like the normal summon, which is quite annoying. I think going into game 2, I sided out a Fuzzy Lanius, which is why you see that I don't search a Fuzzy Lanius. Which is, again, a bit annoying, but it was just one of the ones with a bit of hindsight. Like, I wasn't expecting to open up Fuzzy Lanius this turn. I was like, yeah, I don't really want to open it up. I'll summon it and then extend with it later on. But risk and reward, as always. There is a Raider's Wing in the graveyard. Okay, so that's pretty decent. That allows me to get a monster back to the board with a bit of protection slightly. But even then, we've still just got, at this exact moment in time, it's just XYZ fodder. There's no real, Link fodder. There's no XYZ fodder as of yet. So let's see. I'm still holding that back just in case there is like a Ghost Bell or a DD Crow or something. So to see what else can kind of, because what I don't want to happen is I don't want to get Ghost Belled on Arsenal Falcon, and I don't want to get Ghost Belled or DD Crowed on Arsenal Falcon either. So it's trying to maintain some sort of resistance, and because obviously if my opponent hasn't been able to like fully combo, you do need to consider that there's probably quite a few hand traps there. It looks like there might be a D shifter and a OG Yubel in there. Anyway, we're going to overlay into a Raider's Wing using Fuzzy. We're going to detach off of Fuzzy. We're going to the second Brave Strix, detach off of the Brave Strix to search out a rank up. Now, obviously, the issue is the normal rank up is stuck in the graveyard. So we're going to have to go for Roost in order to recycle cards. Now, as I mentioned on my previous video, I had been told at locals that I couldn't shuffle back extra deck monsters with this, which is why rather than recycling the Arsenal Falcon, I recycle main decks. And that's one of the biggest issues, is I was going on the confusion or misinformation. Otherwise, I would have shuffled back the Arsenal Falcon. Not that it would have made much of a difference, because I still don't have the rank up to let me skip into Arsenal Falcon. But, I mean, still. So we go Roost to the draw. We're going to banish the rank up and Bloom Vulture, which I suppose Bloom Vulture would be pretty good if they clear my board, but in a Yubel matchup, it's very rare they're actually going to clear my board. More times than not, they're just going to attack one of my big monsters, and I'm going to take huge amounts of damage on this one. So the Nibiru is relatively strong, but it's all about just trying to play around what else could possibly be in that hand. Now, again, I'm not worried about an inburn because he would have set it. So it's more so just if I can't finish the board off. And like I said, I forgot that Eternal Favourite brings back any Yubel monster. I thought it was just normal Yubel. So I was like, okay, cool. I wasn't really worrying about it so much. I was like, okay, let me get to my Ultimate Falcon. And then I hopefully should be able to swing it for game, which is why I didn't worry about going into Satellite Cannon, which is, again, hindsight, what I should have gone for. That or going into the big guy, going into Rise and Rebellion. So we're going to be searching off of the Link monster. We're going to be searching off the Hill Eagle just to kind of get the trap card so that I have a bit more crackback. But I'm pretty sure, again, knowing me, I was like, oh, I'm going second. It's going to be a little bit more fast pace on this one. So I take the trap out for more board breakers. And it just didn't really reward me. So I was like, okay, I'll go for the Tribute Lanius so that I have a follow-up for the next turn, should my opponent stop it, because obviously I can Roost, put the Mimicry back in, Tribute Lanius, and just loop that around. Now it's really just like, and I think this is where I messed up, because I put Brave Strix in defense, I messed up in the sense that I couldn't recycle back the rank up. So we attempt to go battle phase, can't kill that. We're going back to the main phase for the Eternal Favourite to bring back the Yubel, and I was like, crap. So Eternal Favourite, Spirit of Yubel will now get the search, and that's going to be for a second Eternal Favourite, and I'm like, crap. So I'm doing a bit more of the mass, and I'm like, well, I'm forced to attack the Yubel. My Nibiru is 4/4, so if I do continue into the battle, like obviously I can skip the battle phase, but I've already shifted the Nibiru token into attack. So if I skip the battle phase, go to my opponent's phase, they'll only go, okay, cool, Eternal Favourite, contact fuse with my 2 Raidraptors, burn me for anywhere from 15 to 2k, and then attack the Nibiru token. I would take 44 and go from there. So we pretty much just scoop it out. I was like, I can't come back from that, unfortunately. A couple of side decking choices that weren't so correct for the matchup, but going into game 3, opponent had Shifter, and it's like, okay, how far can I go? Obviously, straight away, that Shifter pretty much shuts off the Arsenal Falcon play because you need to get Arsenal Falcon to the graveyard to bring it back. I also make a mistake here is I show them that I've got Triple Tactics in the hand because I completely forgot what phase that was in. And I was like, okay, cool, activate talents. And it was like, oh, that was in the standby phase when you activate Shift. I was like, oh, yeah, duh. Be a bit mad if you were saving it for main phase. And then my hand, I believe, is Roost, Mimicry. Is that an Imperm? Maybe. Roost, Mimicry. Oh, no, so it's Noir Laniest, Mimicry, Roost, and Pain, which was total pain. So we use Pain's effect. I take a bit of damage. I've got to be careful because we're getting close to time now as well. So I take, I think it's 300 because you take the lowest of Noir Lanius. Then use Noir Lanius' effect to search out Heal Eagle, which gives me another free extender, which can ultimately help me get the trap card. So that's what I'm just trying to do here. But again, it's a bit tricky. I probably should have activated Roost. That would have been more beneficial for me. It's trying to see how far I can go. I need to play around Super Poly. I need to try and play around pretty much everything else. So we're just going to try and dig to set up a bit of a board, bit defensive board, and then hope that we can hold out for the next turn and then crack back. Obviously, Heal Eagle isn't great going to the graveyard because it'll be banished, which means I can't banish it. So we'll go for the Raider's Wing. We're, again, trying to find a way to protect from targeting. I still now need to be fearful of Imperms and Veilers and everything else from that point on. So we're going to Raider's Wing. We're going to link it into the Y-Strix. This is going to give me the second rank level 4 on the board, which allows me to get my Raider's Wing. And I suppose this is kind of the issue is I should have tried to find a way to rank the levels up prior to this. Otherwise, I'm just going to be ending on a Raidraptor or an Arsenal Falcon, which aren't the most defensive options, and it's never going to hit the graveyard. So we activate Roost. We're then going to overlay the Strangle Lanius and the Raider's Wing to go into a Raider's Knight, and we're going to do the same combo here. I probably played into Shifter a little bit more than I should have done. With hindsight, it was like I was trying to still build a board. At the start, I was adamant I was still able to get to an Ultimate Falcon, where ultimately I probably wasn't, because the quick play spells are going to have no use to me whatsoever because I don't have the materials in the graveyard. So I would need to ultimately hard build the board in order to make one of the XYZs. And I also need to be careful because Yubel has burn damage and it will attack anything that I have in attack and make me take that damage. Again, when you're looking at what else they might have in hand, which at the moment we can see a Pot of Prosperity. Luckily, it looks like there's no Nibiru. Pot of Prosperity, Samsara D Lotus, Summon Limit, and some other kind of cards that I can't see exactly. So we're going to go into Raidraptor, we're going to go into Roost, into Y-Strix. This is going to give us the trap card and also give me a rank up. Ultimately, I felt that the rank up was pretty much useless at this point because I don't really have multiple XYZs on the board, so it only came down to being able to protect with the back row and then recycling with Roost, which is why it wasn't the end of the world to be banishing stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll play as deep into Shifter as possible, hopefully get enough hand traps so that I can hold my own with the hand traps. So we go for the rank up off the back of the Raidraptor, turn it into an Arsenal Falcon. Probably should have held it back, to be completely honest, because again, with hindsight, it was like, well, the Arsenal Falcon's only going to get me so far. Like, I'm only going to be able to get to that point, and from that point on, I can't really go that much higher. So, bit of a disappointment. We still get the draw for Roost. We still got the rank up. I'm trying to see. Obviously, we know there's the talents in there. There's no more hand traps coming down. I think that's a Dark Beckoning Beast in the hand. So we're going to put back Heal Eagle, Pain, and everything else. Again, this is on the assumption I wasn't allowed to do extra deck monsters. So if you question that or what under why I did that, that's pretty much the reason why. Didn't really draw into an effective hand draw. I drew into Nibiru, which is okay. If the opponent doesn't summon 5 times, then it ain't going to mean nothing. So we're going to go into the Arsenal Falcon. We're going to detach the Bracetrix. I probably should have kept the Bracetrix on it, to be fair, to make the Arsenal Falcon a little bit stronger. But even then, if they attack it with Nibiru, with Yubel, I'm just going to take even more damage. I'm already down on life points as it is because I took that little bit of burn from Pain Lanius. And now it's ultimately just trying to summon something from the deck that may be of any use to me, but I don't think there is anything that's going to be great help for me. I mean, Kyron did make the point at the end of it that maybe I should play the Napalm, and I was like, I shouldn't need to play Napalm. Like, the only reason you would do that is if you do get shifted. Otherwise, you just ultimately would go into an Ultimate Falcon and then end phase it would burn for 1,000, so it's going to be doing more anyway. And this is what I'm saying. I was probably playing into Shifter a little bit more, unaware of the amount of time I had left, but knowing that we're in game 3, so there wouldn't be a huge amount. Yeah, I mean, I've still got to deal with, like, on the crackback, I've still got to deal with a summon limit. I've still got to deal with whatever else they may get from this point. Not to mention if they get into their Yubel or Yubel Fusion, which they have access to. Ultimately, either I'm going to get OTK'd by self-inflicted damage via Yubel's burn effect, or I was going to get OTK'd. So it looks like they top deck Gates. Going to start off with a Gate, the Sacred Beast Gates. This is going to allow them to search out a Dark Beckoning Beast. Now, I do control a Raidraptor XYZ, so technically I can negate any card. And the thought process was, again, at this exact point in time, if I negate Nightmare Pain, I don't take any further damage. Which is why you'll see that I hold back that negate quite long. I think annoyingly they actually get to 4 summons as well, so I can't even Nibiru them. Or we don't even move to battle phase. I think I just get hit. You'll see in a minute what they reveal off Pot of Prosperity, which, in my opinion, it was the game winner. So we're going to start off with normal summoning the Sacred Beast. No effect to search out a gate, but you do get the additional summon to go into a Samsara Lotus. Obviously, I could negate that, but I was like, well, if they've got a Nightmare Pain already, I was trying to calculate the chances of what they have. It's like if I negate that, they still have the ability to link into a Yama, and they can still go through Unchained plays. And then if they have the ability to discard a card, actually no, I don't need to worry about this card because Shift is still active. Either way, Samsara Lotus goes into Nightmare, goes into Spirit of Yubel. Again, I probably should have negated the Spirit of Yubel because they wouldn't get the Nightmare Pain. But the whole thought process was let them get into a sense of security where they're like, okay, cool, I don't need to worry about anything. Search out Nightmare Pain, use Nightmare Pain's effect, get original Yubel. I'm like, okay, cool, well, wait, negate the Nightmare Pain. And then they don't get the original Yubel. They don't get the Eternal Favourite. They don't really have much of a board breaker unless they've hard opened a Super Poly. So trying to starve off the access to direct Yubel was the ideal kind of goal, to be honest. Maybe with hindsight, that wasn't the best strategy, but it kind of looked like a strategy that would have worked. Had a very specific card not be revealed off of Pot of Prosperity. So, again, Spirit of Yubel, attempting to... I think have they already searched out Nightmare Pain? I looked away for like 2 seconds. No, there we go. So, activating the Spirit of Yubel to get the Nightmare Pain. It doesn't destroy his cost, which is relatively beneficial. Activate Nightmare Pain. Oh, no, activate Pot of Prosperity, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, I mean, again, time close approaching. I don't think either of us knew exactly how long we had left. I think we both felt we had like 10. But Droll, Prosperity, Summon Limit, and then the last card was Super Poly. Literally the last card. I was like, okay, cool. Well, this changes everything now because the second that a Yubel hits the board... well, not even with Yubel, because Spirit of Yubel's on the board, they can pretty much dodge every form of interruption or negation that I can present, which is, again, massively damaging on this one. Activate Nightmare Pain. Nightmare Pain's effect, attempting to get original Yubel to the board. It didn't really make much of a difference because the burn damage, even though it would be halved, technically they could super poly my entire board and then burn me for half damage. Could very well have just, even then, could have, to get maximum damage out of there, could have waited past it to my turn and then activate super poly, and then I would have taken like full damage during draw phase. But again, neither of us were fully aware of how much time was left. So when they declare to activate Nightmare Pain, which is what you need to double check, is you can actually activate multiple Nightmare Pain to turn. You just can only activate one, the destruction effect of Nightmare Pain as a hard once per turn. So if I negated that Nightmare Pain and they had a second, they could activate it, use its effect to destroy. So I had to wait until they activated Nightmare Pain to destroy. So we're going to activate that to negate. And plus on top of that, because I was negating the spell card rather than a monster, then obviously a Super Poly can't dodge it, which is very important as well. And then, so only at this exact moment in time, bar the damage from Pain, if that Super Poly wasn't drawn off the back of Plot of Prosperity, the best they could do would be link 2 into a Yama. Yama searches out a Shyama or a Shavara, and then they have to try and destroy the Yama during their turn to defend up. But the Super Poly just kind of changes it now. It's like, okay, cool, Super Poly, entire board, go into Love and Defender. In the main phase, time gets called, Love and Defender, burns for 2k, 2,500, halved, and that's pretty much it. So, very, very good duel to kind of finish it off. Very interesting for both these decks to be getting into the top cut. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Until next time when we bring you more duels from locals, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.